Federal U.S. Texas District Court Judge Reed O'Connor has ordered Boeing to send a representative to his courtroom in Fort Worth, Texas on January 26 this week to be arraigned on a felony charge stemming from the fatal crashes of the two 737 Max jets. The ruling came after relatives of some of the victims said the government violated their rights by reaching a settlement with Boeing without first notifying the families. It's important to note, however, that the judge's ruling is a narrow one that does not guarantee that Boeing will face prison. But a Boeing prosecution remains the goal of lawyers for relatives of some of the 346 people killed in the crashes. For years, we thought Boeing would get away with murder, and now it appears they may finally face justice. Well, before you get too excited about that prospect, and while this latest ruling is a good sign, it is still far from a done deal, and there still may be considerable disappointment yet again for the families of the two Max crashes. I'll tell you how we got here, and what the families and Boeing can look forward to next on Maximus. Greetings everybody, Maximus here. I hope you are all doing well wherever you may be all around this great big beautiful world of ours. I can't tell you how excited I am to finally be back. And if you will indulge me a quick moment before we start, I want to thank all of you for all your good thoughts and well wishes during the last month that I have been laid up with the dreaded virus that continues to attack the globe. The voice still isn't 100% and the doc said it could still be a few more weeks, but I just couldn't wait any longer to get back to work. So for better or worse, here I am, and I'm happy to be here. Okay, so before we talk about if anybody at Boeing will be charged with 346 counts of murder and going to prison, I think we have to take a quick refresher course on how we got to where we are today. By 2005, Airbus had pulled ahead of Boeing in total aircraft sales worldwide. And at the time, Scott Hamilton, managing director of the Liam Company, said Boeing was just completely arrogant in dismissing the viability of the Airbus A320. Even in the face of Airbus's new dominance during the period of 2005 to 2010, Boeing still had decided to replace its aging 737 and 757 variants and was actively working on creating a new twin-aisle mid-size aircraft dubbed the 797 to compete with Airbus's popular A320 series. Boeing hoped to have the 797 flying by the early 2020s. But then, in November of 2010, Airbus stunned Boeing with its surprise announcement that they would be upgrading their A320 by adding larger, more fuel-efficient engines, dubbing the new aircraft the A320neo. Neo standing for New Engine Option. However, even though Boeing was caught off guard, they still forged ahead with their plans for the brand new mid-sized aircraft. At the time, Boeing didn't seem bothered at first by the new fuel-efficient A320neo that Airbus announced in 2010. At a January 2011 meeting, James F. Albaugh, the chief executive of Boeing's commercial airplanes division, told employees that Airbus would probably go over budget by creating a plane that carriers didn't really want. Mr. Albaugh boasted that carriers were already paying more for Boeing's single-aisle 737NG than the Airbus version. So he said he didn't see the need to retaliate at the time and that Boeing could wait until the end of the decade to produce a brand new plane from scratch. He said, "I don't think we need to get too spun up over the fact that they're making some sales." However, that all changed in July of 2011, when Boeing, who had a 15-year monopoly with American Airlines, got word from the airline that for the first time ever, they would shun Boeing and place the largest ever order for the new Airbus A320neo with Boeing's nemesis, Airbus. Well, that news sent shockwaves throughout the world's oldest aircraft manufacturer. But American Airlines gave Boeing a lifeline, telling them if you can come up with a comparable plane to the A320neo, we'll buy from you too. And that's when Boeing scrapped plans for the all-new 797 NMA altogether and went to work cutting corners, making dangerous decisions, and rushing to begin developing their new Frankenstein aircraft called the 737 Max. So in 2011, American Airlines ordered 460 new planes from both manufacturers, 260 jets from Airbus and 200 from Boeing. American also had options to purchase 100 more planes from Boeing and 365 from Airbus, including 280 new A320neos. Then in December of 2011, Boeing announced that Southwest Airlines would become the launch customer for the new Boeing Max with a firm order for 150 jets. And this is where the die was cast that would turn Boeing from an aircraft manufacturer into a criminal enterprise. Because Southwest Airlines demanded that their new MAX order was contingent on the fact that there be no new training needed for their pilots to switch to the new MAX, especially no new expensive simulator training. So Boeing began to cut corners and forego much-needed engineering improvements and hide safety issues from regulators, especially when it came to the MCAS system designed to make the new MAX fly similar to the legacy 737, avoiding costly additional training. Of course, the problem was that Boeing hid this new and dangerous feature from the airlines and world regulators. So much so that no one other than Boeing even knew the MCAS existed, because they persuaded the FAA to remove all mention of MCAS from all training manuals. And even though Boeing engineers knew the MCAS kept having catastrophic crashes during simulator testing, they pressed ahead hoping nobody would ever be the wiser. Then on October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a brand new Boeing Max, and again 6 months later on March 10, 2019, another brand new Max, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, crashed under similar circumstances, claiming all lives on board. In both crashes, the new mysterious MCAS system was to blame. It was at that point Boeing's deception was found out, and all MAX jets were grounded worldwide until they were eventually repaired and returned to the skies late in 2021. And it was at that point that all the lawsuits started rolling in. However, in January of 2021, in a preemptive move, Boeing cut a sweetheart deal with the U.S. Department of Justice that would keep them out of jail. And instead of being criminally charged, they would pay fines to the government, with the bulk of it going to airlines for their loss of revenue, and just $500 million for the victims' families. But under this agreement, the families would have to take what Boeing gave them, and if they agreed, they were bound by law not to take any further action against Boeing. But there were a few families that told Boeing to stick it, and they didn't sign their agreement. So in December of 2021, those families asked Texas U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor to rescind Boeing's sweetheart immunity deal because none of the family members were consulted ahead of time of the details of this secret deal between Boeing and the Northern District of Texas U.S. Attorney Aaron Neely Cox, who brokered the then deal, who coincidentally after this deal was done, left the DOJ and took a position at the law firm of Kirkland & Ellis, which just happened to be Boeing's law firm, with whom Cox brokered the deal. Are you with me so far? Yeah, the fix was in from the beginning. So then in October of 2021, Judge Reed O'Connor issued his ruling, siding with the families of the crash victims, and Judge O'Connor officially declared all Boeing crash victims' family members crime victims, finally opening the door to charging Boeing criminally with a felony. And that brings us to this week when Judge O'Connor has ordered Boeing to be arraigned on a felony charge stemming from the 2 MAX jet crashes. Okay, now that we're all caught up, there is one important caveat you need to consider, and that is that the judge still has not ruled yet on a separate motion by lawyers for the families to strip Boeing's immunity from prosecution. But given all his favorable rulings to this point, you would think the judge might be inclined to strip Boeing's immunity from prosecution. But there's still one big problem. This is the United States justice system after all, so anything is still possible. But let's suppose Boeing is stripped of its immunity and faces felony charges. Just how serious could the charges be for Boeing and its management? Well, I don't know for sure, but it would most likely be some form of homicide. But which one, I'm not really sure. So let's take a look at the different definitions of homicide in Texas. Number 1, murder. In Texas, this charge applies when the defendant allegedly knew that he or she would intentionally cause the death of the victim. Well, while some say yes, this could apply to Boeing, I think Boeing can make the case that they didn't premeditatedly know they were going to kill people, so it probably won't be murder. 2. Well, how about capital murder? No, I can't see any way Boeing gets charged with capital murder. Okay, number 3, manslaughter. You could make a case for manslaughter. Manslaughter is charged as a second-degree felony in Texas. It occurs when the death of someone else is caused by recklessness, but there is no premeditation, which is why manslaughter is not to the level of a murder charge. Then there's involuntary manslaughter. This occurs when a person accidentally kills another person without any intention to cause them serious harm or death. So yes, this could apply to Boeing as well. They surely didn't intend for people to die, even though they knew it was a possibility, especially after the first crash. But personally, I don't think the charge will be manslaughter either. So that leaves us with option 4, criminally negligent homicide. Now this is the charge I personally think perfectly fits Boeing in this case, especially since they knew of the dangers of the MCAS system. And like I said, especially after the first Lion Air crash. Texas defines criminally negligent homicide in this way. The main focus of the prosecution in criminally negligent homicide cases is whether or not the defendant knew about the risks when they did what they did to cause the death of another person. There's also a strong focus on what they should have known regarding the risks. And that perfectly sums up what Boeing did. According to thousands of pages of court documents, emails, and texts from within Boeing, many people were aware of the risks of the MCAS system, and they hid them from regulators, pilots, and especially the passengers. So this should be the felony charge to Boeing and its management. But will the U.S. justice system have the cojones to charge Boeing with any of these crimes? I have no clue. And even more sadly, I kinda doubt it. But what about you? If you were on the jury, what charge do you think Boeing should be charged with? I want to see thousands of comments on this one. If you don't think any of the above charges apply, pick one of your own and tell me why you feel that way. So please don't leave without letting me know down below. Well, that's going to wrap it up for now. And if you feel like supporting the channel, please see the Buy Me a Coffee and merch links down below. And the thank you button is there too. But the best and always free way of supporting the channel is to subscribe, like, share, and ring the bell. And remember, leave the rubber on the runway and your troubles on the ground. And I will see you next time in the air. Yeah, this is Maximus.